As Jesus sat down to eat in Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners joined Jesus and his disciples at the table. But when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" When Jesus heard this, he said, "Healthy people don't need a doctor, but sick people do. Go and learn what this means. I want mercy and not sacrifice. I didn't come to call righteous people, but sinners." At this time, John's disciples came and asked Jesus, "Why do we and the Pharisees frequently fast, but you and your disciples never fast?" Jesus responded, "The wedding guests can't mourn while the groom is still with them, can they? But the day will come when the groom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one sews a piece of new, unshrunk cloth on old clothes, because the patch tears away the cloth and makes a worse tear. No one pours new wine into old wineskins. If they did, the wineskins would burst, the wine would spill, and the wineskins would be ruined. Instead, people pour new wine into new wineskins, so that both are kept safe." Hello. That is an interesting passage. I was getting ready originally to make a parable short, and this was the next one in line, the new wineskins. And I did not feel comfortable with putting that out, knowing what it means, with the rather rabid anti-Semitic behavior online. So instead, I'm going to do a short sermon. It starts out with Jesus going to eat at Mathew's house. He is a tax collector. Now, so you know, tax collectors in the Roman Empire were basically mobsters. The deal was they were to collect tax for Rome. Rome told them, "How much I want you to extract from this population." How you did so was your business. How much you extracted was your business. All Rome was concerned about was their share. That's who Mathew was. He was a tax collector, some mobster. As Jesus sat down to eat in Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners joined Jesus and his disciples. We need to remember this when we get all dressed up and we very properly go to church and we don't curse and we think we're doing everything we're supposed to do. Jesus didn't come to visit us in the choir. Jesus came to visit the Matthews. In fact, a little later, the Pharisees saw this and they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Jesus overheard and he said, "Healthy people don't need a doctor, do they? I'm not here for the healthy people. I didn't come to call the righteous. I came for the sinners." The thing is, we're all sinners. There is no righteous. Here's the question for all of us. Honestly, do you think we would welcome Jesus into our church? I'm sorry to say I have extreme doubts about that. Now, here's the piece that had me concerned. No one sews a piece of new, unshrunk cloth on old clothes, because the patch tears away the cloth and makes a worse tear. No one pours new wine into old wineskins. If they did, the wineskins would burst, and the wine would spill, and the wineskins would be ruined. Instead, people pour new wine into new wineskins so that both are kept safe. He was absolutely, at that time, talking about the established religious order. Basically saying, you're an old wineskin. You're a new piece of unshrunken cloth. And in both cases, you will ruin the clothing. You will ruin the wine when you burst. I'm not here for you. I'm here for the lost, the sinners. And you don't recognize me anyway. And that means we need a new order. Now, my concern was, like I said, people will use that as an excuse for claiming that Christ was eliminating the Jewish faith. He was not, absolutely not, any more than if he came today, he would be eliminating the Christian faith. What he was saying was, you have become so obsessed with your rules and regulations, so rigid in your thinking that you cannot be adapted as you are. The church is so rigid, so blinded, that we have to create a new church. Ask yourself, whether you be a liberal or conservative, would you recognize Christ if Christ came today? I'm here to tell you that many a, quote, good Christians would not. I might have told the story back when I was serving in a farm community in northeast Nebraska. Every Monday night, I would go down to the one bar in town that was open, stereotypical small town bar. And I'd go to the back of that bar, and there would be a big card table back there, and there would be 4 or 5 guys from town, mostly all the businessmen, and we're gonna play Texas Hold'em poker. And I'd sit down and I'd start playing with them. My congregation freaked, to put it mildly. Our pastor was in a bar and he was playing cards. What they didn't understand is I'm going to go where the sinners are. And yeah, I intentionally used air quotes. In the Methodist system that I was a part of, we were not appointed to a church, a building, a congregation. We were appointed to a mission field, basically a 5 square mile area. Every soul in that mission field was our responsibility. I'm going to go where the people are, no matter where they are. Jesus went to where the people were, sat down and had supper with them, treated them like human beings. If you've seen any of The Chosen, you know Mathew is this basically, he's documenting all this, and they present a very sympathetic light to Mathew. I gave a sermon once about Mathew and explained what the tax collector was. And when Jesus walked up to that table he was sitting at, Mathew knew Jesus knows who I am. And yet Jesus chose Mathew, one of the disciples, and the Pharisees and the priests, and even John the Baptist's people didn't recognize fully who Jesus was, but the tax collector did. The reason Jesus said, no one sews a piece of new, unshrunk cloth on old clothes, because the patch tears away the cloth and makes it a worse tear. We have to be shrunken. Our egos have to be shrunken before we can be sewn onto the old cloth, before we can preach the gospel. Put away all of your thinking about what's proper, what's right, and instead think, how can I tell the story in a believable way to all of those folks out there that haven't heard the story? The way you do that is by how you live. How you live is concerned with how you treat other people, not how much you don't curse, not how well you dress when you go to church. I have always said, I think if God judges, and he does, he judges on how we treat our fellow human beings. Don't get caught in such rigid thinking of what is proper, what is right, what is the right way to worship. I mean, I've seen arguments where modern, contemporary music that is Christian and worshipful in nature, but it's hard rock, or it's I don't even know what they call it now, getting old. It's beyond the hard rock when I was a kid. And they're calling that satanic because they don't like it, because it doesn't fit with what they think worship should be. It's not that it doesn't fit with worship of God. I am sure God revels in that because that music is reaching people that the ones who think Christian worship music can only be this. You need to be the new wineskin. You need to be the shrunken cloth so that you can tell the story by your actions. And that will help open the hearts of individuals where the Spirit will move upon them. That's your job. Not to make rules, not to be holier than thou. Your job is to treat your fellow human beings the way God treats you. And there's not a human alive who believes in God, who just heard what I said, that doesn't inwardly cringe because they know who they are. I know who I am. And yet God treats me like Jesus treated Mathew. Be the shrunken cloth, be the new wineskin, be a child of God.